Hello everyone, this is John, your host on the Prepared Mind channel. Tax cuts! Tax cut for Christmas! What does that mean? Alright, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel on Patreon, everybody. Thank you for everything. Merry Christmas to you. Tax cut. Everything was passed today. The tax cut is finished in time for Christmas. Unfortunately, the tax cut we can't use until 2018. We don't get a tax cut, a tax break for this year. Unfortunately. But I'm not going to be a glass is half finished. I'm going to be a glass is half full kind of guy. But what does this tax cut really mean? There's been a lot of speculation on who it's going to help and who it isn't, but it really looks like it's going to be a good tax cut. What I don't think is it's going to fix what ails America, and I don't think it's going to fix what ails the world. Without wanting to be the guy that throws a bucket of cold mud on a fire, I want to actually sit down and look at where we're at. You know, Trump came out and they had a big presentation today. They had all the big Republicans up on the dais as President Trump spoke. It was quite interesting. Paul Ryan is a rhino. There were a bunch of rhinos up there, that is Republicans in name only. They're not reliable, conservative Republicans. They're something else. But they got all of this put together. However they did it, they did it. Is it going to benefit rich people? Everything benefits the rich people. I don't think the rich have ever gotten soaked and said, geez, we didn't see it coming that way. Right? They always make out okay. But will this help the regular Joe, the everyday guy? Will it help the working poor, and will it help the middle income, the middle class in this country? I sure hope so. You know, at this point in my life, with my experience, I don't mean to be incurably skeptical. I don't mean to be a critic who can't be satisfied ever. But I think that my suspicion is well-founded. And I was thinking, you know, today I'm 47. I'm 47 years old. And when I was younger, in my 20s, I used to listen to the older generation talk. I had my opinions, but I would listen to them talk. Because I hadn't fully formed all of my opinions, and I certainly didn't have a lot of experience. But now I think that I do, and I think that you do as well. You know, so instead of being that guy that listens, I sat around today and I had people asking me, John, what do you think? John, what do you think? John, what do you think? Well, and I said, well, this is what I think. This is what my experience tells me. This is what history has taught us. And we can discuss what has happened today with this tax cut. It is quite interesting. Attached to the tax cut was the opening of the ANWR district, or area of Alaska, to oil exploration. That is going to make America a bigger energy producer. Now, in my way of thinking, I know that the government, whether we're talking about military operations or tax operations, they have an idea of where they're going ahead of time so that they can plan taxes and things ahead of it. They want to be ahead of the curve. They want to know what's going on ahead of time so they can position themselves to benefit. That's what the rich have always done. That's what the powerful have always done. That's what my experience tells me. Now, hopefully there's some benefit in this for the American people. But at the same time, I'm not so Pollyannish to grab my pom-poms and go, yay, 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 thank you, and think we're going to all benefit. You know, that this is great for the people alone. So if they're opening up ANWR, I ask a few questions. Are we going to see an increase in the cost of oil? Are we going to go back up to $100 a barrel? Some of the smart money says, yes, expect an explosion in the price of oil. You and I at the gas pump will see it as a form of inflation. But we're seeing issues with energy around the world. The concept of peak oil has been discussed for years, but when we talk about cheap energy versus expensive energy, it used to be 1 barrel of oil, the value of it would buy you 100 barrels. Now it's 1 barrel of energy or value will buy you 5 barrels of oil. It's a much lower ratio. So as a result, they're opening up ANWR. Now what's interesting about this is they've been fighting this fight, trying to get ANWR opened for 40 years. 40 years they've been trying to do that. Why now? All of a sudden. We're talking basically my whole lifetime versus my early, minus my early formative years. 40 years, that is the mid to late 70s. That's the 1970s. 40 years they've been trying to do that, and now it's coming open. Now they've gotten past the environmental stuff. Now all the natives of Alaska are happy with this. Now all of the politicians, all of the energy companies, everyone's for this now. Everyone meaning 51%. Is there something else in our future that we're not paying attention to? Now again, you can watch any news channel you want on NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, or on even alternative news. And I'm going to look at everything a little differently, and I hope you guys, in fact, it's got to be the reason you're here, because I'm just not that interesting otherwise. I'm just not that handsome. I'm just not that articulate. But I have a different stake. If they're saying, look over here in my right hand, you're getting a tax cut. I'm looking over here going, well, what is their other hand doing? What are they up to? What are they trying to give us? What are they trying to sell us? What are they trying to get us to believe in? Well, if they're talking about oil and getting more oil domestically, is there going to be an oil shortage? Is there going to be a war in the Middle East? Now, when Trump was first elected, I talked about the Keystone Pipeline and bringing oil through the center of America so it can be distributed in the event, right, that our coasts become compromised. The Gulf Coast, the East Coast, the West Coast. We need to have access to our own oil, and the Keystone brought Canadian oil down. Well, the ANWR is a very similar situation. It is domestically produced energy. Now, a lot of people have discussed energy. What is energy? Well, it's not just putting a gallon of gas in our car. Right? Energy is what drives the economy. The cheaper the enemy, the cheaper the energy, the higher the standard of living. If you don't make enough money to buy a gallon of gas, you can't drive your car to work, you can't have a job, you can't make money, you can't buy another gallon of gas. Right? It's kind of a circle. It's a Hakuna Matata of life. It's like the energy cost. 1 barrel buys you 100. That's a good investment. 1 barrel buys you 5. We're getting a little bit, as my son likes to say, sketchy. Right? A little on the edge, a little nerve-wracking. I love the words Lucas comes up with. He's the best kid on the planet. So back to energy. Cheap energy is not available if we have a world war. If they run out of oil in the Middle East, and we've got more looks at energy in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, UAE, they are forming a corporation that they're going to sell stock to. And they're trying to diversify their portfolio. But what do they really have in Saudi Arabia? They've got oil and they've got sand. Oil and sand. Well, nobody wants sand, and we already get their oil. So if they run out of oil, what is left in their country? They're trying to diversify and get into other businesses. That tells me there's an energy crisis there. Something is happening that we're not aware of that we need to start thinking about. If you have an intuitive mind, you're going to start looking. Something is amiss. We did the Keystone Pipeline. Now we're looking at ANWR in the United States of America. Why? We're looking at the possibility of an economic downturn, a slowdown of the economy, an exposure of all the debt that we have. And what's that going to do to America? It is going to break us. It is going to hurt us. We're going to need more energy so that we have a higher standard of living. Now, right now, I can say, yeah, look at the standard of living. Turn on the lights, flip the switch, lights go on. Go to the gas pump, put in a gallon of gas. No problem. Everything is cheap right now. If we have an economic downturn and we go into a world crisis, what do you think that's going to do to the price of oil? It's going to go up. If America doesn't have access to cheap oil, that is cheap energy, how are we going to get through it? See, I see this as a prophylactic move to ensure that the world knows that we're going to have the energy we need in the United States to try and keep up with the crisis that's coming. Imagine if you couldn't have the gas in your car. How hard would it be to push your car to work? It'd be exhausting, impossible. Just to walk to work or pedal a bike to work. It's impossible. You'll spend all your time traveling. That's where cheap energy comes in. It saves us time. It gives us more time to produce other things. What gives us that fast travel time? Gasoline, oil, energy, our cars. That is why our standard of living as Americans has been so high, because we can get this oil cheap. It has kept the American empire alive. And right now, because we've passed peak oil, the cost of producing everything, not just a mile of travel, but everything, goods that you get through a manufacturing plant, if the cost of oil doubles again, and the speculators go nuts, what is going to happen to the price? It's not only going to affect your ability to travel, it's going to affect the cost of goods. And if other people have to get to their job and it costs them more money, the cost of services provided is going to go up. Opening ANWR, I think, is one more move through the Trump administration to ensure that America has at least a fighting chance in the coming economic crisis. Is it going to be a full-blown collapse? Or are they just going to lock the board down so nobody can sell or buy anything of value? Who knows what they're going to do? But today they're talking about tax cuts. The president was up there glad-handing, patting on the back, and it's wonderful. They've gotten tax cuts. Who the hell doesn't want that except for Democrats? Right? We all want tax cuts. But we're talking about some crazy things going on in Washington. We're only seeing what they want us to see. They're only giving information that they want us to hear. But in the 30-minute parade of politicians that I watched, there was some talk of inner cities. There was some talk of helping out Joe American, Joe Sixpack, the everyday family, how they're going to benefit from these tax cuts. But I couldn't help but notice energy, ANWR. This is just one more day. It's just one more day of the Trump presidency. Every day there's something that's going on there. Is Trump good for America? And I'm asking this with a total open mind. It's because we all need to think about this. Is he good for America, as in you and me? Or is he good for corporate America? Can he be good for both? We need to continue to watch the man and watch the process. We also need to understand that cutting taxes for 2018 will only help you at the end of 2018 when you go to pay those taxes. For 2017, we're stuck with the old tax system. Right? So in a few months, we're all going to pay taxes on 2017, and our butt's going to hurt. It's going to sting. We're going to say, but what about those tax cuts? Oh, that's for next year. As soon as I heard it passed, I called down to my accountant and said, hey, is this a retroactive tax break? Do I get these cuts they're talking about today in 2017. They said, no, we're sorry, John. It's not what you're going to get. They didn't add that in just for you. Unfortunately, no. I think we could all use a tax break right now so that in April we don't pay a huge tax increase. So what they accomplished today gets us money in the future, but it allowed them to announce today as if it's a victory. Merry Christmas, you get a tax cut in 15 months when you go pay your 2018 taxes in the year 2019. Is this a way of psychologically boosting you and me? Giving us a pat on the butt and a pat on the back of the head and then an attaboy. Could they know that something between today and the end of 2018 is going to break, it's going to pop, it's going to hurt? Is something else going to change? This is my natural suspicion. This is my suspicion based on experience. This is my suspicion based on intuition. Right? If they're talking about what's in their left hand, what are they holding in their right? What are they hiding from us? You see, because you and I both know there's something going on that's screwy. They had this tax cut today. Guess where the Dow went? Percentage-wise, it went nowhere. They haven't crushed gold and silver in the past week, and so it's slowly working its way back up. Bitcoin is down a bunch, and it looks like the paper Bitcoin's affecting things, but in reality, that's just a few items I like to look at. But the U.S. economy, has it gotten better? Not really. If these tax cuts aren't available until you and me, until 2019, or through the middle of 2018, because we're going to probably see a lower withholding, hopefully, what are corporations going to do with their money? Are they really going to create more jobs? Well, the president announced that AT&T said yes. What about other businesses? If they know the economy is flatlining or going down, are they going to invest and increase their manufacturing? Are they going to increase their labor force, that is, hire new people? Questions we need to ask. Right? To take what the president, whether we like him or not, believe him or not, trust him or not, or have faith and hope, right, that he can make America great again. Putting aside our personal wants, our desires, and then asking what is really going to happen is important. It's critical. Right? How many times have you and I, as adults, rooted and cheered and voted for politicians only to see that what they promised didn't come true, wasn't as good as they said it was going to be, and didn't help America? A case in point. President George W. Bush was elected, brought in all kinds of tax cuts. I remember getting those tax cuts. They were significant. I was a young father at that time. It was significant. But where is the nation today? Well, back at the beginning of George W. Bush's presidency, the national debt was $1 trillion. Here we are 16 years later, and we are $20 trillion in debt. And the economy is a giant fucking slug that is barely churning along. We're not seeing GDP. We're not seeing increases in real wages. The only thing we're seeing an increase in is the value of stocks on the stock market. And if they're correctly observed, you can call them junk stock. Right? Equities. It's not real assets, right? And it's speculative, meaning it doesn't have real value. The only value of the stocks in the stock market is someone else's willingness to pay for it, because it's not a real asset. It's owning a percentage of a company, a small percentage. And its value is only based on other people's willingness to bid for it. And if nobody wants it, the value of the stock plummets. It's completely speculative. It has nothing to do with the strength of the economy. So our economy is weak. The president is opening up energy reserves because America needs easy, cheap energy to keep our standard of living going. Because we cannot afford $10 a gallon gas. Because of what that'll do to the cost of every product and every service. We will see hyperinflation that will cause people in Venezuela to go, how do you like us now? Right? In Venezuela, incredible amounts of hyperinflation. They are crashing so hard. But up in America, you turn on the switch and on come the lights. You hit the button, open the microwave, hot, steamy dinner. I watched a news story this morning, and it was on the GPS, the Money GPS. I like that guy. Hats off to you, buddy. He did a story where he talked about a woman. She waited 20 minutes at an ATM. She got out 5,000 bolivars. Right, that's the Venezuelan dollar. She was able to get out 5,000 bolivars. Well, guess what that is equivalent in American money? 5 cents. That's 5 pennies. She waited 20 minutes to get 5 pennies out of her bank account. See, 5,000 bolivars used to be $5,000, but they have hyperinflation there now. Hyperinflation. They're having economic SHTF. Here in America, we can have something like that happen very, very quickly. The cost of goods and services is based on the cost of energy. If I have to spend 40% of my total income in taxes, that means all of my energy was reduced by 40%. So getting me a tax cut and getting me down to 30% is going to feel rather nice. I get another 10% of my own effort to keep for myself. I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're looking at the future and going, uh-oh, we've got a big problem. I think this is their way of admitting it. I know the Democrats hate Trump, but they're not saying, and I don't give a shit if they say, that this is the worst thing ever. I hear people saying in politics and in economics or finance, how are you going to pay for this tax cut? I want to know, how are we going to pay for all the government spending? Because I've pointed out how we've gone from $1 trillion in 16 years to $20 trillion. That is over $1 trillion increase in national debt per year, every year, for the last 4 presidential terms. We've got a debt issue, which is a spending issue, which is a fiscal responsibility issue. We've got an energy issue that is being addressed. Kind of backhanded, kind of quietly. But I think we should keep an eye on that. We're going to get a tax break coming up. And apparently it's going to help regular Americans. You're going to get a bigger standard deduction and a bigger child tax credit. That's a big deal to everyone who has kids that they're showing as dependents. So if we're seeing a reduction in taxes, they're acting like this has never happened before, but it has. But they're calling this the biggest tax increase in like 30 years. Why do they need to do that while they overspend money? Are we going to see a financial crash? Are we going to see a monetary reset? Are we going to see a reissuance of currency? Are we going to see something like they had back in 1933, where they had a bank holiday, they closed the banks, and when they reopened them, everyone's deposits were revalued lower? That's the upshot of what happened. Are they trying to get access to cheap energy? This is Anwar. This is not oil sand. This is not shale oil. This is not lignite. This is not fracking. This is real oil in Alaska. You have to go a long way to get it, but it's real energy. It is highly concentrated, inexpensive energy to get, even though it's 5,000 miles from me. And if you're across the country on the East Coast, add another 2,000. So they're talking about getting high quality oil cheaper. Why? Why is that important today? Anyways, just some thoughts I had as I listened to the president and I watched these rhinos clapping themselves on the back. Do they know something we don't know? I guarantee they do. Is this a preemptive move because they know what's coming? If I was a betting man, I'd say yes. But one of the few things I bet on is what I like to call a sure thing. And based on the economy, we are heading for shit hitting the fan. I don't think Kim Jong-un in North Korea was clapping over the tax cut. We still have all of our problems with North Korea. We still have all of our problems with China and Russia. We still have all of our problems with Europe. We have all of our problems in the Middle East. We have all of our problems worldwide on every level. Financially, diplomatically, politically, economically. We've got a housing bubble that is incredible. I think it has now touched the moon. Right? It's incredible. We need to be prepared. We need to have food and water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and you need a plan. Today I spent a good half an hour with an associate who needed to talk about prepping. He had talked to someone else, and every time he offered his plan up, he was told, well, this is what's going to kill it, and this is what's going to stop it, and this is what's going to break it, and this is why your plan won't work. And the guy was distraught. He said, John, I have all these plans, and this other guy told me that they're all going to fail. And I said, you are preparing, you have a plan, you have a contingency plan, you're doing great. What he's talking about, this other fella, is there are ways that every plan can be defeated. But if you don't have a plan at all and no preps, you're defeated before the game has even started. And if this guy has pointed out holes or problems or potentials with your plan, that's just one potential. Someone can say, that won't work because of X. And you can say, well, X is only one of 10 things that can happen. How about A, B, C, D, E, F, G? All of those, and they work with my plan. So the idea is not to nitpick the shit out of yourself and say, fuck it, nothing's going to work, and give up. But rather, prepare with the items you need, and then have a plan that takes in everything that works in your world. The geography, socioeconomic conditions, the type of people in the area, the number of allies that you have, your geographic proximity to large cities, to agricultural production areas, to other natural resources. What is the climate like? All of those are incorporated into your plan. But you need a plan because we're looking closer than ever to shit hitting the fan. You guys have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you much for watching. Today was an interesting day. Tax cuts for everyone. Oil coming for everyone. What does it all mean? And why would they talk about that? Why is it passing now? Chance favors the prepared mind. Godspeed to all, and I'll talk to you soon.
Ho, 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 ho!
Playtime is over. Get your Prepared Mind merchandise at thepreparedmind.club. Help keep free speech free and spread the word about the need to prep.